You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome to Durian ASEAN. You're with Grace at the Durian Heat, where we discuss matters around Southeast Asia. And this time, on Wednesday morning, we'll be discussing on the post-discussion of ASEAN Youth Leaders Summit, which took place about a week ago. And here we are with 3 participants. 2 are from Malaysia and 1 from all the way from India. And we have a lady called Francesca and Marques, and also a guy from India called Vikram. So 3 of us will be discussing what we have realized and also learned from this particular summit. So let's say good morning to them. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Morning.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for joining us in the interview this morning.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's start with our lady here, Francesca. Could you briefly introduce yourself?
My name is Francesca.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Eurasian from Malaysia. I come from Malacca.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently a student in Cempaka International Ladies College, and I'm also the youth ambassador for the Nation Building School, of which Marques is one of the principals.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys are related.
Yeah. So, my name is Marques.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a community outreach officer, community organizer as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the co-founder and also principal of the Nation Building School,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm Malaysian as well.
Right. How about you, Vikram?
Hello, I'm Vikram. I'm from New Delhi, India. I'm a student of law at the Amity University,
Mm-hmm.
Noida. Apart from this, I've been working with an NGO called Khwaishe Foundation, where we educate underprivileged girls so that they can be at par with boys and other social groups.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So for this particular summit, which was held about a week ago, ASEAN Youth Leader Summit, can I ask you how you guys managed to participate for this summit?
So, if I were to start,
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
Basically the government of India and the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs
Mm-hmm.
had chosen my application amongst the others, and we had this application which we had to briefly describe about our works
Right.
and what we have been doing. So amongst many other applications, I was chosen, and we was told that we should attend the summit and briefed about what is the purpose of the summit.
So Vikram,
So that is how.
Okay. So you knew about what ASEAN was all about.
Yeah. Since a long time ago, ASEAN, in India, ASEAN has been spoken about from the elementary levels of education itself.
Right.
ASEAN and Southeast Nations Association is like quite significant, as we are now a dialogue partner with them.
All right.
And demographically, we have a very good share of our population living in ASEAN nations, so it's very important for us to know about ASEAN.
So how many delegates were there from India, if you remember?
Yeah, there were 10 of us, 5 boys and 5 girls.
Mm-hmm. So how did they feel after attending the ASEAN Youth Leader Summit?
All of them,
Yeah.
all of us.
Yeah,
were
I mean, do you
highly
still
obliged.
keep in touch?
Yeah, all of us, and now we've made new friends across borders now, and also we've been now more aware of what is happening around us. We were ourselves not aware who is working for what reason within the country itself. Now we are more aware of what all has been going on.
Right.
Now, and also when we talk about people in Malaysia, we now get a deeper idea into what are the problems specific to ASEAN and what are the specific solutions to ASEAN. While framing the policies, it was a very great learning experience. We had come to know about what all has been going on, what all needs to be just improved, so that we already have solutions existing for certain problems.
Right.
And certain others, we found many new solutions, and I was amazed to see what all ideas we had a chance to visit upon during the conference. It was an enlightening experience.
Yeah.
I must thank Malaysian government and my Indian government for giving me this opportunity.
Perfect. Well, how about you, Francesca? How did you make to this ASEAN summit?
Quite similarly to Vikram, I actually sent in an application to the Malaysian Ministry of Youth and Sport. And we were just told to send in a CV and basically explain things like what sort of NGOs you're part of, what you do in school, your background in social enterprise and stuff like that. And I sent it in, and I got an interview in which they asked me things like why did I start up a foundation in school called the Educate Foundation, in which we do something like what Vikram does.
Right.
Educate, like student for student, kind of educating girls and stuff like that. And from there, they told me that they wanted to send me to this ASEAN Youth Summit. And basically what they told me was we need someone who's from a younger generation, because I'm still 17. So they needed somebody who was younger to come to the summit and give a fresh perspective, because everybody's coming from post-university or they're already working, whereas I'm still someone who's looking forward to going into that. So they just wanted someone to come in to give something that's new, bring something new to the table. So that's how I got into it. And I think it was, like what Vikram said, it was really, really great experience, because I didn't really know much about ASEAN. Like when I sent in my application, it was more of a, oh look, it's a summit, it's about youth leaders, let's go for this.
Right.
But
so
it was
more of that motivation.
Yeah, it wasn't so much about this is ASEAN, because I think you would be familiar that in Malaysia we don't really learn much about ASEAN in school.
Yeah.
So when we talk about ASEAN, I just know that it's something Malaysia's part of, but I didn't know.
But you heard about the term ASEAN community.
You mostly see flyers around town. Yeah, but we didn't really know much about it. So when I went in and I got the briefing from Islan, he basically told me, this is what ASEAN is. You can find all these documents, all this history everywhere. And when I read it, I was like, wow, this has been in place for so long, and I've not known anything about it. And it's a really great thing, and to be able to be part of it, to give my perspective, to be heard as part of this ASEAN thing, it just gave me more motivation to want to be part of the whole summit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's perfect. How about you, Marques?
Well, on my capacity of the Nation Building School, that was how I was actually invited to be part of the whole summit. And as of my knowledge in regards to ASEAN, I've always known about ASEAN, but of course not really in depth. We always talk about going regional, and we in Malaysia especially, what we do is, especially from a youth perspective, we do a lot of research, and being part of the youth demography in Malaysia, someone like myself, when you speak about ASEAN, we look into several issues within ASEAN itself, especially if we talk about something to do with politics, economics, and the social stand of ASEAN. So going into this summit, I was looking into gaining more experience and talking to more people and finding out more about their perspective on all these issues. And I actually thought that the summit was something really, really good.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very refreshing form of exposure, especially for youths, not only within Malaysia, but the whole of ASEAN itself. And I think I, of course, anticipate more summits like this, especially within the ASEAN region. And credits and congratulations to the Ministry of Youth and Sports of Malaysia for carrying out such a fantastic program. YB Kari Jamaluddin actually carried out something really, really great. And I think most youths in Malaysia, if not all, are looking forward to more opportunities like this. So yeah.
Right. So, my next question was about overall impression about AYLSA, but then Marques just nicely briefed us about his impression on this summit. How about you, Francesca?
It was really great. I mean, there were a few things I thought could be a bit better, like a bit of maybe keeping to the time a bit more.
Right.
Yeah, but that's classic Malaysia. But I think overall for me, I just kind of hope there was a bit more interaction.
Right.
Like the first day was mostly talks and listening and taking
a lot of panel
notes.
discussions, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the second day we only managed to have 2 sessions where we interacted, and then it was community-based projects. But I kind of hope that there was more interaction because when I listened to what people around me were saying, it was really great stuff. And I wish that on the third day, instead of just having one event, which was the closing event, maybe we could have maybe 1 or 2 more things before that. You know, just to end it on a nice note instead of just come in and finish it. So maybe there's a bit more, would have been more fun, but otherwise it was an amazing experience.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you, Vikram?
Yeah, it was quite amazing, and it was like so much happening that on the third day we couldn't believe it's over. So that was.
It was pretty fast, right?
It was pretty fast, and but I think everything on the second day we had enjoyed a lot. On the networking dinner hosted by Mr. Kerry, it was absolutely amazing. Everyone was so welcoming.
Right.
Everyone was so helpful and welcoming. And on the second day, the interaction, the community-based project, very, very good idea to let people know about what actually the root problems, and going to the grassroots level and sorting out the problems.
Right.
I think community-based project was a great idea.
Okay. So let's go in more in depth after this short break. We're going to talk about what really happened during ASEAN Summit.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace at the Durian Heat. And I'm also still with these 3 people who participated in the ASEAN Youth Leaders Summit, which was just held a week ago. And we've been discussing and having conversation and what exactly happened in that summit. So let's go in depth this time. We'll be focusing more on perhaps each day, first day, second and third day that happened. So starting with the first day, yes, Francesca, you mentioned there were lots of panel discussions, and to be honest, some of us we got a bit bored towards the end because it's really tiring sitting in a really cold air-conditioned
very
room.
cold.
But then of course speakers were brilliant. It's just that we're still young and we want to move around and talk to people, and we had to sit down and listen to them. It was a great opportunity, but of course we can talk a little bit more about this. So starting with the panel discussion, what do you remember the most from that discussions on the first day?
Okay, to begin with, I think the first panel discussion for the day was quite, I would say, hyped up, you know, when Tan Sri Rafida took stage.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and because she is dubbed the Iron Lady of Malaysia.
And she was very vocal.
Yeah. She was she was very vocal indeed,
I think someone mentioned also that she was being somewhere brutally honest and something like that.
Well, that was fun.
So I think one quote which I remember her saying was, a statesman always thinks about the next generation,
right,
and a politician thinks about the next election. So that was a very good takeaway, I would say, you know, from the first day itself. Of course, Benjamin did a very good job as well, you know, and when
Benjamin Young, from the big
group, when he spoke about entrepreneurship,
right,
and of course his journey from starting, I think he started by delivering carrot cakes, and how he made it big eventually. The panel discussion on technology was also fantastic, you know, where you had Zeph and I can't remember the other guy's name.
The guy from Google as well, right?
Google, it was, Zephyr was from Google, the other person.
From UN and...
from Time.
Oh, right.
So, these guys were amazing as well, you know. So,
very brutally honest.
Yeah, that guy was really, really honest as well. So, the first day, I would agree that we had a lot of panel discussions. Probably it could have been distributed over the 3 days instead of cramming it up into one
full day,
you know, and especially after the opening as well. So I think overall the panel discussions were good. It's just that probably in terms of distribution itself, we could have done a better job in you know, breaking it up
But did you have any questions throughout the panel discussion, and did you guys manage to question them, the speakers?
Yeah, I think I did. I had one for Tan Sri Rafida, and the other one was during the technology discussion, in which how was technology impacting the youth. So I had 2 questions for that day.
So did you get the answers?
Yeah, I got the answers for the questions which I asked, and I think the panels managed to give a satisfactory form of answer.
Yeah. How about you, Francesca?
I think considering how much experience I have in all the fields you were talking about, for me it was more of a first time learning experience, so I didn't really have that much to go on to ask questions. But I think overall the speakers themselves, even though I didn't have any background on the subjects, they gave a pretty good summary and then their thoughts, their opinions, and I think even though I didn't have questions, I learned a lot that day, especially from the guy from the US Department of State, Mr. Andy Rabins. I think that was for me the best talk of them all, because he talked about overcoming challenges. And considering that I'm a young girl, I'm in Malaysia, I mean, there's a few challenges you have to go through, especially when you're from the community that I'm coming from, the Portuguese community. It's very difficult. So to hear someone who's saying he used to have a stutter and now he's working with the government for global youth issues, it sort of told me it doesn't matter what kind of challenges you face as long as you get over it. So it kind of like gave me a lot of inspiration, a lot of motivation. And Tan Sri Rafida Aziz, when she spoke about ASEAN has to end with the talking and start with the doing.
Exactly. I totally agree with that, by the way.
That really hit me, because I realized the next generation is me. And it's like people before me, they can do all the planning, they can do all the talking, but it's us who has to actually get down and bring the action to the table. And so that was something that interested me, because I'm not the kind of person who likes to sit around in a boardroom and just talk all day. It's boring. But if you ask me to get down, like what we did in the community-based project, that was something that was awesome, because it showed me that it's not just all listening all day. It was getting to do something. And so what I took from all those panels and speakers and Mr. Andy Rabin, it was basically, no matter what you do, there's going to be challenges, but as long as you keep doing it, you're going to succeed. So that was, it pumped me up, really.
You were in the volunteerism, that pillar, right?
Yes.
And then you also mentioned about the lack of time, that you guys could have discussed even more in depth and also perhaps interact with your colleagues there. But there was just a lacking. And perhaps it's also because of the 3 days tight schedule. They had to just squeeze everything in for thousands of people there. But specifically your pillar, volunteerism, what did you feel about that particular section from your delegates and the participants from there?
I think we were a really fun bunch, because our first session for the scenario box, we had Miss Eunice Olsen, and we didn't do what the other pillars did. Other pillars, they were basically given talks, if I'm not mistaken, but we were actually given a scenario in which she just threw us an issue and said, how would you solve it as volunteers? And it was interesting, because I think all of us managed to contribute very differently. Like we had someone from Brunei, Miss Fatin, who basically she told us, look, a social worker does this, volunteer does this, do not get confused. And somebody from Cambodia told us, look, we're going very general here, but every country in ASEAN has very, very different policies on how far a volunteer can go.
That's very true.
So, you know, it sort of told me that as idealistic as we hope things are, it's not really that way. So through the volunteerism pillar, even though it was supposed to be all about volunteering, I also learned about many, many different cultures, how things are run, how a developing country actually tackles their own issues in different parts, and how ASEAN really plays a part in making sure these developing countries eventually become developed nations. And as about the people were amazing, especially during Idea Box when we had to form policies. Like you said, lack of time. I mean, we figured out, I think, about 20 issues when it comes to volunteering, but we could only talk about 2. So that was... but
that's not even half of it.
But everybody was really like it's okay if we can't do this now, we'll just send in the most important things, but we'll meet up after this and we'll continue the discussion, which we have done.
You guys have done?
Yeah, we keep talking about it. We're trying to figure out how things work.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, it's really nice because you make friends even though you're all different ages, different locations, and you all bring something to the table. It's not just we all want to volunteer and that's it.
Right, for sure.
It's I want to volunteer, I have a plan, but I don't know how to do this considering there's so many different aspects of things. So what do you think you can contribute and how can we make this work? So it became more of a, I would say, a brotherhood or sisterhood, if you will. But I think it was really great because volunteering for me wasn't, I mean, it's something that I'm really big in.
Right.
But it's not something I thought I could see as a career.
Right.
But there were some of them who do it as a career, and it showed me that passion isn't so much about living your life doing what you want to do as a part-time, but also making money. It's just about living life the way you want to, and you can succeed any way you want to. And that was something that I didn't think I could learn through volunteerism, but I did. You know?
That was a really beautiful speech, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that's why she's part of the nation building school as well.
Yes, I can see that, Marques. How about you, Vikram? You are also in the volunteerism, and what did you feel from that pillar?
I was in education and employment.
Oh, education and employment, right.
So it was very amazing. The idea box, again, it was the most amazing part. We got to interact with each other, thinking about how could we improve on the current situation and remove the social differences amongst the various ASEAN nations themselves and amongst the various communities. And this was an opportunity to hear excellent ideas. People from all across ASEAN nations and other dialogue partners, they told us very much about how their nations have been dealing with it and how else we can unify and have a common approach to deal with it. Also, I had an opportunity to share what my country has been doing, so that it was more about education and employment. So it was a very great experience. And about the policy making, I think yes, about the time, if we had a bit more time, it would be better. It would have been way better. And also, since we were limited to making only 2 policies, we had way too many of ideas amongst us. All of us had too many ideas or too many thoughts on the same idea itself. So for making the policy, we had to stay up till 2 a.m.
Or 24 hours.
So that was it. And although it was very amazing, like the discussion, the ideas, and I was so amazed. And also we had planned that whatever they adopt, because this is a great platform to get our ideas into force. Because if this platform adopts what we need and what can be done, it'll be it was the first place where they hear the youth. So we had decided if they do not adopt certain of our ideas, because we had at least 5 to 6 of them. So we had decided amongst ourselves that we'll be making this, we can make this, we can make this. So, and we have been doing one of the projects. I think there's a region in Malaysia called Sarawak.
Yes.
So, so I think there are quite differences between communities and social differences amongst them.
Right.
In terms of what their education situation is. So I think we'll be very soon working upon that project. Also, a similar. We wanted to establish a database of all the ASEAN delegates who had been there. So
I think that's very important too.
So somehow Kamil had been able to do that.
Right.
But if it had been some official group, and so that we could continue a dialogue, the alumni and all, and they could be well connected, I think it would have been very, very useful. And even now, although it's quite useful, but I think all of them are not there. There are just 175 members over there.
Yeah.
So we are still missing a few of them. But anyhow, it was a great effort. And for the making up of policies, such great ideas and such a great discussion we had from girls from Singapore, Japan, and other ASEAN nations. And also in the evening, Malaysian people were so welcoming. And I think I heard this Zaim, this guy was very we had first time been aware that there is certain things which are going on, but they just need to be improved. Like I think there is an ASEAN University Network, which is already there, and people were not aware of it. So that is what we wanted to do. That if
bring the awareness.
We need to improve it.
Right.
There's no need to create a new institution, but we have to improve institutions. People are not aware of it.
That's very true.
And and also database could have been improved, and otherwise it was very amazing for the Epic Homes project that we went. First of all, a very beautiful location it was, somewhere in the mountains, and I heard that there was this village where people from 9 different tribes live. So this is the one of its kind village, and we had prepared a business plan for this tribal who was planning to conserve his culture and community. So I think it was a very helpful job that we did. We prepared a business plan for him, how he needs to go forward with it, planning, costing and everything for him. So how do we successfully employ him? His whole family has been involved in this business now. So apart from that, although Epic Homes has been building up homes, but we somehow volunteered to help them.
Right. So that's quite a wonderful story there. It's really amazing to hear that we still do keep in touch after the summit. And that was one of my concerns, because usually what happens after conferences or discussion session, we don't really carry on what we have left in the summit. But I guess this is one of the wonderful things that it's happening. And then and also until now I'm so grateful that I'm having this interview with this beautiful people from ASEAN Summit. So can I ask you a question that before we end this second segment? When you think of ASEAN youth, I mean you guys all met people from different countries.
Yep.
So ASEAN youth, to you now, what kind of image do you have in your mind at the moment? We can start with Marques.
Well, when I think about ASEAN youth or picture ASEAN youth and as what YBKJ has vision for the ASEAN youth leaders, I think the most important thing is forging the identity itself.
Okay.
Representing the region as well as carrying ourselves for who we are. Bringing common betterment, not just for the member countries, but generally for the whole region itself. So when I think about ASEAN region, when I think about the ASEAN youth, in time to come, we will be a group of people who are very progressive, who are capable of thinking and rationalizing about the common betterment for the region itself, in terms of economical policies, political stability, and also from a social stand, and I think we are very diverse, which is a good thing. We are very rich with our culture, and in terms of diversity, we are fantastic. We have a very colorful background. So if you ask me, the ASEAN youth. I think the most important thing will be the identity itself. Looking at the ASEAN bloc itself, people will know that the ASEAN youth has so much capability and potential, and that they have so much to offer, not just to the region, and not just to Asia or Asia, but to generally the whole world.
Right. Okay. Before we hear the answers from Francesca and Vikram, let's take a short break, and I will be back.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. And we are still having conversation after this ASEAN Youth Leaders Summit, which was held about a week ago. So let's continue the question that I asked you guys about ASEAN youth image in general, especially after this summit. So let's go to Francesca.
I think when we talk about ASEAN youth, coming from someone who's still pretty young, I would say that a lot of people underestimate us.
Right.
Because we may not be as informed
and also experienced
as we would like to be, but we have a lot to bring. We know how we want ASEAN to be in the future, and we know what we need to do to get there. But people tend to not listen to us. They are more like, oh, you're not one of the heads of state, so you may have an idea, but it's not as important as it would be if you were a head of state. So I think, yes, we're very, very underestimated, but it's not that we're not interested. We are very interested. I mean, I was having a conversation with a few of my friends about what I learned at AYLS, and a lot of them were like, hey, how come we don't know about this kind of thing? Like, how can we do this on our own level if nobody else wants to plan it for us? A lot of us want to get into the discussion. A lot of us want to get into the action. But there's not a lot of platforms. So I would just, as ASEAN youth, I would just say that we want more than what we have been given. We want to be a part of the progress. We do not want to be the person enjoying the end product. We actually want to build the region. Right. Yeah. So I would just say we're very, very underestimated, but it's not that we're not interested. We are very interested.
That's very thoughtful, the way that you're, bringing to us. And it's very true, all those working adults and those who have been experiencing all these ASEAN conferences and so on, they do estimate for those who are like 15 or 17, and then just to realize, okay, they're not much experienced than we are.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that has to be really need to be fixed, as in like we have to have all this younger generation need to feel the inclusiveness when it comes to ASEAN community, and that's what it is all about. Not only from the urban areas, but of course from the rural areas as well. So Vikram, what's your take in this when it comes to ASEAN youth?
I think all of us had come together for a common cause. That was the most important, and all of us were quite welcoming. No ego, nothing between us. We all wanted to work together, and I think for the first time I've seen a conference which is hearing from the youth at such a large platform, that youth is being heard, because as they rightly said, 60% of the ASEAN is youth. So I think we are quite as much stakeholders in this, and we do have ideas. I think in a few years we've been having youth entrepreneurs, we've been having youth billionaires, and I think the best of the best ideas. I think we have we should be the source of the biggest innovations and newest ideas, because I think the older or the head of the state, they know how to do it better, they know how to implement it better, but when it comes to getting new ideas to deal with the situation, I think their ideas have already been heard and have already failed. So that's why they still need to have improvements. So I think it is very important to hear the ideas of youth, how they'll be going on to handle situations. And I think this exposure is very important. That is how we get to learn and we get to experience how to deal with situations in the coming next decade. Right. So I think this is a great idea and great concept.
It looks also like carry on.
Also, as there was this panel discussions with such experienced people, such a great exposure it was. We had Jeevan on voice, and he had also rightly pointed out that we need to create 1 billion jobs. So his focus, those statistics exclusively helpful to us, those projects that he's mentioned, and everything was quite motivating. So I think such projects need to go on quite regularly, and so it was quite important for us and quite important for ASEAN as a whole, so that these projects do continue and youth is being heard, because this is the largest part and the most ignored part. So I think this was a good initiative. This was the first one, and I hope this keeps on happening.
I have this question because I will say we were very privileged to attend this ASEAN Youth Leaders Summit this year. But how about those young generation who live in the rural areas who have never heard of ASEAN from the first place, and then when you reach them and then ask them what is ASEAN to you, would they really care about ASEAN? That's another question that's always in my mind. I mean, summit conference is good, I mean, all this generation, we come together to discuss, interact each other, to get to know each other, to learn from each other. That's very important. But how about to have all this ASEAN-ness or become ASEANese, like KJ said?
Yeah.
How do we reach out to rural areas? Do you have anything to say, Marques?
I think building up from what YBKJ said, becoming ASEANese, okay, it's our responsibility to bring the awareness. You know, when you talk about spreading the idea or the understanding of being ASEAN itself, it starts as a drop, you know, and the ripple effect has to happen. Only then can you really understand and really carry out the manifestation of being a member of ASEAN itself, especially the youth. And in terms of bringing the understanding to people at the grassroots level, and also the rural areas, I think what happened in the second day, that is an example of how you bring ASEAN to the people, you know, because we understand that right now the opportunities are very, very selected or selective, you know, only a certain amount of people get to attend such conferences, such summits. But the most important thing is not the summit or the conference. The most important thing is the post-conference or the post-summit, and in when you actually bring the understanding or the knowledge which you have obtained during these conferences and summits to people on the ground. And programs or projects happening at rural areas or at grassroots level is important. Whether you like it or not, it is extremely important for us to become the messengers of ASEAN itself. The ideology, the idealism of ASEAN has to travel through the youth, you know, and I think the Gen Y and Gen Z has a huge and a fundamental responsibility when it comes to doing that. And in terms of making people understand about ASEAN, it's only through practice. You know, the more you do, the more will people actually adapt and understand, okay, this is what it's like to be a member of ASEAN or part of the ASEAN youth community itself. And as youths, we have that prerogative to do it. You know, if not us, then who? You know? So I think the responsibility has to be shouldered by us, the youth, because the people who were before us, they have done their part. Now it's us. We have to bring that to the ground. We have to see it being manifested, and we have to see how the end product is, you know.
That's what Francesca also mentioned just now. So do you have anything else that you want to add on?
Let's go back to basics, okay?
Sure.
One of Malaysia's goals as chairman of ASEAN this year was to create a people-centered, people-oriented ASEAN.
Very true.
But if I were to go to anybody and talk about ASEAN, the main question I get back is, what does ASEAN do for me? So you're asking me whether people, what's the point of ASEAN for people in like rural areas, and how do we increase the awareness, right? Like what Marques said, what we did in the community-based project is what we have to do. We have to go back to the people. I mean, there's no point saying you want a people-centered, people-oriented ASEAN if you're not going to the people. And a lot of policies and stuff that's being made, it's mainly between like what happens in the summit. It's just heads of state coming together and saying, this is our economy, this is our, you know, there's not much going down and asking people, what do you want, you know, to happen. And I think that's why conferences can only go so far. You have to get back down and do projects with real people to get real feedback. There's no way to move forward if you're still living in a world where everything is only what happens in a government body. It happens everywhere, private, public sector. It's everywhere, especially in schools, because leaders, whether we like it or not, they're made in school. And if our education doesn't work, then there's no way ASEAN can develop.
That's very true.
You know? So I think if you just want to talk about how ASEAN's going to work for people who are not attending summits, not attending conferences, it's you having to go down and do a project to say, this is what we can do for you, but what more do we need to do? Where can we go from here? It's not so much as just telling someone, it's showing them.
That's a really big question, you know, to us, especially our generation. Yes, Vikram?
As I heard in the Tanushree Rafida's panel discussion also, what she also suggested, how do I know that what is ASEAN doing for me? So what she suggested is if there is a project which is started up and it is benefiting people from a certain rural area, so now they know, yes, ASEAN has been doing this for us, and that is how they associate, because you do not need to create a feeling. ASEAN is ASEAN. The only thing you need to do is now you have to benefit them. They only will be interested in know that what is it doing for us. So if we create such projects which is benefiting people at the grassroots level, people at the rural areas. So instead of discussing economies, discussing large scale industries, discussing anything else, if we discuss about what is the majority of the population, how can we benefit it through a project from ASEAN? Like for example, now we have signed up technology sharing. So if we share this technology and bring it to a rural village somewhere in Malaysia, and he gets to know that we've been able to get this technology because ASEAN has been working together. So then they have a feeling, yes, ASEAN is something. ASEAN is doing something for the people. This is you have to work. You cannot talk and get into the minds of people. You have to work for it.
That's a very good point. But it is also important to remember when it comes to ASEAN, we do have 3 pillars, and those are something that we really need to take into consideration. For example, terrorism, human rights, economic status from the different countries. Because like Marques mentioned before, we are so rich in culture and we're very diverse, and that also applies in economic status as well. So that's when we have terms like AEC, ASEAN Economic Community, and all the other sort of terminology and jargons that maybe we're not familiar with. But those are also the things that we need to study as a younger generation to understand better what is ASEAN as a whole. But again, going back to this topic where we really need to focus also on at the grassroots level to be able to reach out the bigger audience and the bigger generation for them to realize and feel that the sense of belonging to ASEAN, the whole community. So before we end our interviews today, let me ask you one last question. Next year, ASEAN Youth Leaders Summit, what is your expectation and what do you hope to, what's your wish to experience there?
Well, for the coming year, 2016, if we happen to have the AYLS, whichever country which champions AYLS, be it in Malaysia or any other member country of the ASEAN, I think one good thing to have during the AYLS would be having the heads of state, visit the AYLS and interact with the youth itself to have an insight of what the youth really wants, and especially during the breakout sessions, like in day number 2. It would be good if you can have the Prime Minister of Singapore seated in the same room with the youth to listen to the ideas of progress, of development, and probably the PM of Malaysia could sit in a separate room with other youths of separate countries to listen to their views as well. So having the having the heads of state of the ASEAN members visit the AYLS and becoming part of the program would be an inclusive form of a way to move forward. And not only that, it will also give them a whole new perspective, probably a fresher view on what to expect in the future.
Just imagine that we are having all those the important people in our room to discuss all that. That's another sort of big perspectives that we can look at. How about you, Francesca?
I think I would panic if I had someone like that in the room. I would just think what I'm looking forward to next year is more interaction and more time.
Exactly, more time as well.
More time.
We need more time for sure.
Being able to propose 2 policies from each pillar, it's great that we managed to give 2, but there's so many more we had ideas for if we were just given more time. We were given 10 minutes for each pillar to present.
Exactly.
10 minutes. 10 minutes that could change our lives, if we maybe given a longer time frame, more chances to talk, maybe not just to make a formal presentation, but to actually meet people and have just like what we're doing now, just tell them our opinions, tell them where's the issue, how we think it could be fixed. Just more interaction, and not just with people who are CEOs here and there who after the summit are just going to be like, okay, I did my part, now I'm goodbye. If we could meet people who are actually interested in listening to us and are interested in implementing things, that would be amazing. So, just more two-way communication, less one-way. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I think it's also really important to select all those participants,
of course,
who are very sincere and very determined to do something about it.
We don't want to have Muppets during such a summit.
Right?
Yeah,
go there and take selfie. How about you, Vikram?
I think we could have also built up a technical database or some platform so that we don't really need to come to a place and discuss everything we need to improve and recommend everything. We could have an official platform where we could come together, talk on an issue, recommend something, have speeches, have debates, and have ideas, and recommend them to some official, maybe to secretariat, to something, so that we really need to come together to Malaysia again or to somewhere, because it's actually not very much practically feasible. So we could have done it technically also. We could have made this opportunity. I think we could have made more out of it. And I think for the next, we can have such a platform so that if I'm selected again, I would love it. But even if I'm not, then I would love to be a part of the discussion. Love to know what has been done next and how to add my inputs to it. How could I help?
Right.
So if there was some technical platform through which you really don't need to come together to a same specific place per se, but you can do it through internet.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Like we're doing right now, it's a radio show, and I am here in India, and we could have people from elsewhere also.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I promise you I'll create another platform, another session to discuss about this. So that's it.
I think you should. I think you should. It's badly needed.
I will. Okay. I need to study a bit more, and then I will create this platform again. But thank you so much for your participation this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and that was very thoughtful and also very sincere, the conversation that I had with these participants from AYLS. So thank you, and listen to us on our podcast on YouTube, and also we have our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.